Good morning everybody, Shefa Bracha V'Atzlacha Shiur Mishpatam Shel HaKadoshim V'Taorim. We are starting Sefer Shemot, Sefer HaGeula, the redemption. We are waiting for the Geula, and first of all, we wish that Bezrat Hashem, learning Sefer HaGeula will bring us the Geula B'mera B'yameinu Amen. Now, after finishing Sefer Bereshit, that we explained and said, Sefer Bereshit is the Derech Eretz Shekadma LaTorah. It's the right way of living before you start learning Torah, or before you start doing the, let's say, doing the mitzvot in this world. You have to be a mensch. And this is what we learn in Sefer Bereshit. And we had it concentrated in the last parasha in Vayechi. As we says, the blessing are, the contents of the blessing is really the tools for each one of us to use in order to get to the end of days, to the Geula Shlema B'mera B'yameinu Amen. And this starts also in Sefer Shemot. Ele Shemot Bnei Israel. What does it mean? Why do we need to know the names? We know the names. Again, talking about the names. And Ele Shemot Bnei Israel, Habayim Mitzrayim et Yaakov, Ishu Beto Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda. What's the idea? And this is also maybe we can connect it to the blessing. The name, a name of it's got a meaning. We see it in Sefer Bereshit in the beginning, when the Kodesh Baruch Hu gives Adam HaRishon all the creatures to give them names, and he says to the angel, to see, he is much more clever than you. The angel didn't know what names to give, and he gave the names. And the names, I have to understand, what's big deal? Moishale, Arale, lion, snake. What's the idea? Of course, the meaning is, first of all, we have to say it in Hebrew, but the idea is that every name is really something that is inside the human being, inside the creature. In other words, when we talk about the names, it's got a very important meaning. That's why, for example, when somebody is ill, you had another name to him. Chaim, for example, life, and so on. So a name has got something that tells us about the man, the woman, the child that got the name. And there are a lot of interesting stories about when the parents wanted to give a name, and suddenly a name popped into their mind, and they gave this name and not what they thought about. It's all from God. In other words, a name's got a very important meaning. And this is what the Torah is telling us. Each one of us has got a name. Each one of us has got powers. Each one of us has to use his own power. And here we have to understand something. We're talking about Moshe Rabbeinu. But this is now Moshe Rabbeinu, the guy that is the most humble guy in the world. But from other side, he shows us that he is the greatest guy in the world. And this is exactly the point. Humbleness doesn't mean I don't use the tools I've got, or I'm hiding myself. No. You have to use the tools you got from God. Ele Shemot Bnei Israel. Everybody, and the name is very important. And this always reminds me of the Holocaust, when people, instead of giving the name, they wrote a number, like an animal. They got a number on the arm, and they took the name, they took their identity. And this is what Torah tells us. Each one of us got a name. Each one of us got powers, and we have to use those powers. And don't forget, we don't use them for ourselves. We use them for everybody, for the Klal, for Am Yisrael. And when we're talking about the Geula, how do we get to the Geula? We have to understand the meaning of life. What is the meaning of life? And we see what Paro is trying to do. He is trying to destroy Am Yisrael. So he decides, he's a clever guy, he decides to kill all the newborn males and leave the females. He says to himself, if I kill everybody, they will notice, and there will be a whole balagan. So, and what's wrong that I have the female? The female will eventually, if they are alone, they will marry with the Egyptian, and in 2 or 3 generations, there is no Jewish nation anymore. By the way, unfortunately, it's happening. It's happening, especially in America, all this mingling with the Goyim. Anyway, so he decides that he's going to go to the midwives, to Yocheved and Miriam. He gives them special names. We talked about it in the past, Shifra and Pu'ah. And this is also very interesting to see that everybody that had was a minister or something important in Egypt, he used to get 2 letters from the name of Pharaoh, the Pei and the Resh normally. In Potiphar, Sris Paro, he says Pei and Resh, and he's got 2 Pei. And we also see that Shifra and Puah, they have a pei and a resh. And Puah has got maybe a pei. The pei is the most important thing, but some names have also the pei, also the resh, but mainly it's the pei. For example, Yosef. Yosef could hold his Hebrew name. Why? Because he had the pei there. But Pharaoh called him Tzafnat Pa'aneach, 2 peis. Anyway, what was this name? Pharaoh had a plan. He knew he wanted to do it quietly. So he went to the midwife, there were Yocheved and Miriam, and he gave them titles. Shifra and Puah, you are now ministers in my kingdom. You are going to get privileges. You are close to me. I am your friend. I love you. And in this way, he thought he's going to have an influence on them to do what he wants. So he told them, when you sit and you see that what's coming out is a male, you kill it. If it's a female, leave it. So when there were 6 born in each time. So it's only natural that not all of them will survive, all the babies. So they wouldn't even notice that those who survive are only the girls, and all the boys are dead. Anyway, they didn't listen to him. And look what's written. ותראינה הילדות, and they had a fear from God, ולא עשו כאשר דיבר להם. They didn't do what the king of Egypt asked them to do. ותחיינה את הילדים. And they made sure that the children will live. תחיינה, like they made sure that they're going to come out alive and everything is going to be good. And ויקרא מלך מצרים, the king of Egypt called them ילדות. Why? Why have you done this? מדוע עשיתם דבר הזה? ותחיינה את הילדים. Why didn't you do what I said? So look at the answer. So the Mialdot, the midwife, said to Pharaoh, the Hebrew women, they are not like the Egyptian women. They're like animals. But here we have to understand, Hebrew is the holy language, and it's got, as we said, a special meaning. What is chayot? What is techayena? Living life. Chayot is life. Chayot is ki chayotena, they are alive. And chayot is, what's the meaning of life? And the meaning of life is a spiritual life, the holiness of life. And this is what the midwife, Shifra and Puah, Yocheved and Miriam understood. That the minute that life comes to this world, we have to make sure that this life is going to survive, and it's going to go through with all it has to do in order to achieve the goal, which is worshipping God, getting close to God, loving each other, etc., etc. This is real life. A life of a Jewish woman. The Jewish women, the Hebrew women, they are not like the Egyptian women, like the Goyim. They are different. They understand chayotena. They understand the meaning, the real meaning of life, what it is. And we see this when he's telling, you know what? ויצב פרעה. So then Pharaoh says, kill every male that is born in Egypt, kill him, throw him to the river, to the Shiur, and the daughters, they'll survive. וילך איש מבית לוי ולקח את לוי. And then a man from שבט לוי took a daughter from שבט לוי. What's going on here? ותער האישה ותלד בן, and then is born מושיעם של ישראל, then is born משה רבינו. What's going on here is that the guy who's talking, the Ish, is Amram. Amram is Gdolador, is the let's say the leader of the generation, and he is the father of Aaron and Miriam. Now when he heard what Pharaoh is saying, that to kill every child, every boy, every maid that is born, he decided to separate from his wife, because he said, what I'm going to bring to the world life, to be children that were going to be killed. So his daughter comes to him and tells him, Father, how do you dare to do a thing like this? Pharaoh says only the male. And what you're doing now, you're also making sure that there are not going to be any female. when he listened, and look, Amram, he listens and he takes his wife back. ויקח את בת לוי, and he takes Yocheved back, and he brings to the world Moshe Rabbeinu, and the light is shining in the quarter of the slaves in Egypt. And this is Miriam. This is also the parsha is showing us the greatness of the women. It says, I think a midrash says, "B'zchutam shel nashim tzidkaniyot nitzu mitzrayim." And what saved Am Yisrael from Egypt was the tzadikot, the women, the righteous women, and among them is of course Yocheved. That then what's happening when they put Moshe in the Yaor, in the river, and the daughter of Pharaoh, which is also a great soul, because she decides to save this child. And who is standing there looking and watching what's going to be? Miriam. And then when she sees that they try to breastfeeding and he is not taking any milk from any from the Goyas, any from the Egyptian, she goes out to the daughter of Pharaoh. And she is telling him, do you want me to bring somebody that will take the child and will feed him? Unbelievable. And Batya, the daughter of Pharaoh, she is bringing the savior of Am Yisrael to the palace. And it's so funny, like the plan of the Kodesh Baruch Hu. They say, "Vayakom melech hadash al Mitzrayim shelo yada Yosef." There was a new king that didn't know Joseph. There are a lot of explanations. But one of the explanations is, "Lo yada et Yosef." It's not that only that they were ungrateful, but it didn't know the story of Joseph. If he would have looked and checked, he would have understood that if God decides something, nobody can change it. So if it is sorcerers and all those wise people told him that is going to be born the savior of Am Yisrael, he is not going to stop it. And same story with Joseph. He brought his dream to the brother, and brother said, we are going to prevent those dreams to come true. And whatever they did, not only that they didn't prevent them from come true, they made them come true. Because they sold him, Moshe Rabbeinu got to the place where he got. Joseph got to the place where he got. And this is again the same story. Pharaoh didn't know it. If he would have checked it, he would have known. Lo yada et Yosef. He didn't know the story. We also don't understand a lot of things, but we have to understand what's behind things. And Pharaoh not only didn't kill the savior of Am Yisrael, the Moshiach, he raised him in his own palace. Can you believe this? Unbelievable. And when we see this, how it's going and developed, we get to the point when Moshe Rabbeinu is being raised in the house of Pharaoh, in the palace. He's getting the best teachers, the best education, and he's got all the fabulous joys of Egypt. And then, when he grows older, he gets out, and he sees his brothers are suffering. And he understands that whatever was in the palace, that's not the real truth. The real truth is outside. And he sees an Egyptian guy. He's hitting a Jewish guy. And what is he doing? He looks right and left. He sees there is nobody. And he kills the Egyptian and puts him in the sand. That's the normal explanation. But here is something for us to learn. Very important. Moshe Rabbeinu is being raised up in the palace of Pharaoh. He's a Jewish guy, but he is also the prince of Egypt. He comes out and he sees suddenly the truth in front of his eyes. You are Jewish. Look what's happening with the Jews. And now he thinks to himself, Vayabet Kovacho is looking right and left. One side, I'm Jewish. The other side, I am Egyptian. Can I be both? Can I be Egyptian and a Jew at the same time? No. I have to decide what I am. And he decides to be Jewish, and he takes the Egyptian inside him and puts him in the sand and buries him. And then he's starting a whole new life. Imagine to yourself, after being the prince of Egypt, now he is running only for his life with nothing. This is Moshe Rabbeinu. And this is for each one of us to understand. Vayabet kovacho, to look. You cannot be this and that. It's like this guy who is sitting and learning in the yeshiva, learning Torah the whole day. And his father comes to the rabbi and says, how is my son? Wow, he says, your son is a great scholar, but there is a small problem. At night, he closes the Gemara and he goes to nightclubs and drinks and what can something like this be? Can a Talmid Chacham to be somebody who is night in clubs and nightclubs and drinks and don't want to say what else he does, and in the morning at tzaddik? Doesn't work. You have to understand there is a way and there is a way. And when we look at what's standing in front of us and understanding what is real life, there is also a very interesting story to understand the way we look at life. There was this guy that was learning in yeshiva, and after a few hours learning, he couldn't stand it. I wanted to go outside to play with the friends football, or wanted to go to a football game. So he comes to his rabbi, I learned now quite a few hours, I've got no koach anymore, I have to breathe something else, I want to go to a football game. He tells him the truth. So the rabbi told him, maybe it's not fair what I'm asking you, but if I'll give you $2,000 for another hour of learning, would you sit and learn another hour? Of course he would sit and learn for $2,000. He says, now look how you look at life. You don't understand and realize the reward that you're going to get for learning. You're looking at what now, what's happening now. But do understand that living a life of a Jew, life of Torah, life of Chesed, those, even if sometimes it's difficult, it's hard, but think about the reward that you're going to get. Because if I'm going to pay you now in this world, you will run and do it. But God is promised you is going to pay, but not here, in the next world. And by the way, also here, if you go in the right way, and you use the tools, the names that you've got, the blessing that we've got, you use the tools in the right way, not for yourself. You use them for everybody else. Use them for the others, for Klal Israel. Then you will benefit also all the other things, because if you use the tools good, and God sees you use the tools good, He gives you better tools. And the tools is Ishana, Dirana, Kelim Naim, a nice wife, a nice cutlery or whatever, nice tools, and a nice house. They make you do things. They brighten your mind. And it's not that this is the goal. No. This good life, the physical life, gives you the power to do more for the spiritual life. That's the idea. And if you use the tools in the right way, God is going to give you better tools and better tools. So you will enjoy both lives. Like it's written on Yaakov Avinu, Yoshev Oalim. He's sitting in tents. Not one tent, tents. What does it mean? Says, explain the tent of the Torah and the tent of Olam Haba. And each one of us can do this. To understand the importance of our names, our Jewish names, to the importance of the blessing that we got from Yaakov, the importance of understanding the quality and the tools that we have, and use them in the right way for everybody, and use them. Use your own. You have, that's Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was from one side most humble guy in the world, from the other side the greatest guy, because humbleness doesn't mean not using the tools. Humbleness is meaning understand that God gave me everything, and it's everything with God, and in front of God I am nothing, but He gave me tools and I'm going to use them. But it doesn't mean that I'm better than the others. No, I am the same. I got different tools and they got different tools, and each one of us is going to use the tools in order to combine them together to the Geula Shlema B'mehera B'yameinu. Amen.